wanting, longing, dreaming. That dream, that desire within you has put there for a purpose. Do not let society or the media or your beginnings tell you you can't. Because yes, you can.
Welcome to Created to Give, where we uncover who we were created to be with money. I'm your host, Trisha Daniel, and this show is intended to dive deeper into God's Word, help us to discover our God given purpose, and identify God's design to manage and multiply our seed so that we can give to others in need. If you've ever felt lost, stressed, or anxious about handling money, then this show is definitely for you. So sit back, relax, and welcome to Created to Give.
And welcome to this episode of Create to Give, where for the next 4 weeks, we are going to talk about planning. I know for some of us, when you think about financial planning and money management, all of us about cringe, and you want to go ahead and click the next episode, but stop. Planning, preparing is an amazing trait. I mean, have you ever gone to Disney World? If you don't plan ahead, schedule out which ride you're going to ride, where's your fast pass, where you're going to eat, by the end of the day, either you're hungry, starving, kids are crying, you didn't get to ride the rides, and you didn't take full advantage of the money that you invested in your ticket, in your hotel room, and your flight to get there. So being prepared, planning ahead, is absolutely key to our lives. Not only if we were going to take a trip, but every single day, especially with the money that God gave us. As we talk about, we were created to give generously, be able to take the money that God has given us and multiply it and multiply it and multiply it. So we're able to give to others in need. We're able to invest in other people. We're able to lend to the people that need it. There is so much purpose in our money. But for some of us, we live in a state of lack, in a state of laziness. I don't like to use that word, but sometimes it's easier to just wish for the money, pray for the money that's going to come through the lottery, just sitting back and waiting for that money just to come in. But sometimes we do. We pray for, gosh, God, would you just give me like $100,000, maybe $1,000? That'd be great. I'll be much better. But then we get that $1,000, we get that $100,000 and it's gone. It's absolutely gone. It's like the lottery winners that all of a sudden get this inflow of money and they're not prepared and it slips through their fingers. And next, they're broke again. How many of you have had $20 given to you, even as a child, and you can't account for it? Like if you gave your kid $20 and they came back to you, you want to know where it went. But yet we don't know where our last $20 went. So for the next 4 weeks, I really want to stop and sit in the preparation, in our planning for our money. So when it comes in, we're ready. We're not ending exhausted and hungry and depleted like if we had gone to Disneyland or Disney World. We're ready. We are ready for that preparation. So let's start with Luke 14:28. This is absolutely my favorite verse on planning because it speaks so much to me. So if we look at the Christian Standard Version, it says, and for those watching on YouTube, I've got to have my yellow Bible. It says, "For which of you, wanting to build a tower, doesn't first sit down and calculate the cost to see if he has enough to complete it?" Have you ever driven by one of those buildings, one of those strip centers where there's been construction and you see a fence on the outside, grass overgrown? It looks like someone started building something and they didn't finish it. It's because they ran out of money, most likely. And what was your first thoughts? Drop in the chat if you are on YouTube. But tell me, what were your first thoughts? Man, what a fool. They ran out of money. Wow, I can't believe it. That would have been something so amazing. If you were going to build your house, your mansion, have you ever seen those abandoned house videos where they have this huge house and suddenly it's empty or it's not finished? And your mind starts wondering, wow, how did they have this beautiful home, but there's no one living in it? or it's not completed, it's abandoned, it's overgrown. How could they? But then we look back at ourselves. How could I? How could I not finish that dream I've been dreaming of? How could I not complete what I was supposed to complete? I've always wanted this dream home, always wanted that dream car, I always wanted this dream business, but I wasn't able to complete it. And for many of us, if you think back, what was that one pain point? Drop it in the comments. What was that one pain point for you of why you couldn't finish it? Or why maybe you were scared to even start because you thought you couldn't finish it. That's why I love this verse in Luke 14:28. So let's break it down because this will be our first of a four-part series. We're really going to be able to better prepare ourselves in our planning, make it where it's not so scary and where it's fulfilling, where it fills us full of joy. We get excited in the work we have before us. I was absolutely profound watching a video, and I'm going to drop the gentleman in the chat. His name was Jamal, and he spoke about the fact of work. For most people, work is a thing that we don't want to do. It's painted by society as something that's, oh, I just want to be lazy and make all sorts of money. Society tells us that we don't have to work. Society tells us the privilege are the people that inherited the money. Society tells us that we're not worthy to have that money. Society tells us that we're not made for more. But what has God told us? Yes, daughter, son, I have created you for so much more. While things seem bleak, while things seem empty, while things seem overgrown, I am giving you the plan. I'm giving the preparation. I'm giving you the vision. Write the vision, make it plain. Habakkuk 2:2. So that you can run with it. Right now in your life, things may feel like that mansion, that business, everything is overgrown with weeds, and there's no way to be able to get the lawnmower out there, knock down the weeds, rip off the fences, and start again. But I'm here to tell you it's time. It's time to sit here in the next 4 weeks and go for it. Anybody with me? Comment in the chat, I'm in. Say, I'm in, because we are going all in our preparation. So let's go back to the scripture. What does it first say? He first says, for which of you? You. He's talking to me. He's talking to you. He's talking to our families. Which of you? What's your dream? What's that business? What's that thing that God has put before you that you know you were created to do, whether it's a nonprofit or whether it's this amazing, thriving business that seems impossible, that the world has told us, you're not worthy of that. You can't do that. Yes, I can. Which of you? I have recently sat in my own sadness, my own struggle with my new husband for the last 22 months. Just 1 month after our wedding, we have struggled with, disability of and the disabling pain of spinal injury. He just recently had his second spinal fusion, a cyst that had been encased in growing bone, just squeezing on his spine right below his head. As the pain, it was incredible. It has taken a toll emotionally, physically, financially, so much that sometimes it was blocking our own vision of the business God called on me, the calling he has on him, the financial strain of wait, why is all this getting broke down again? After 15 years divorce, I finally found love. God, I thought this was it. I thought this is what we're doing. God goes, hold on. Which of you? I'm talking to you. I'm talking to me. He was putting me, he was putting my husband, God was putting you God was putting your family in a position to be able to see, I have chosen you. How has God chosen you? Which of you? Put in the comments, write down the piece of paper. If you're driving and listen to this too on your favorite podcast, in your head. And when you pull over, write it in your notes. What was that original dream that God created for you? That business, that nonprofit. How has He created you to give in this season through your generosity, through your business, through your home, through your family? Well, someday when we are gone and our legacies, this is to live past us. We're not just saving up to give our child an inheritance of, here's $100,000, here's our inheritance. I used to laugh. My grandfather would always tell me, you know what you're getting when I die? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Have you ever had that relative that told you you were getting nothing? Or have you ever held on to that hope? Man, when my aunt passes away, I'm getting this huge inheritance. But wait a second. What is the inheritance? When God talks in the Bible about our inheritance, is he's not talking about money. He's talking about our way of living. What are we passing down to our children? When he says, which of you, he's preparing you for what we're passing down to the generations. What are they inheriting? They're inheriting a way of living. And right here in Luke 14:28, he's talking about planning, preparing our children, our family. Which of you? How are you preparing and planning in this season? Next part of the verse are wanting to build a tower. What's your tower? For my tower, oh, I am so excited. We have a blended family of 6 boys. We need some room. I would love a little piece of land, have a retreat center for women and people to come to and be able to experience peace and joy. I can't wait. I can't wait for a gathering place for others to come. What's your tower? What's your dream? What's your nonprofit? What's your generosity? What is something in your life? I know that for me, my tower, my nonprofit, my gathering place, it's going to take a lot of strategy, take a lot of work. Again, I've got a husband who has lifelong disabling spinal pain. Okay, I have to think ahead. I have to plan ahead. Even though he's only 42, he's not going to be able to physically take care of those things. That's a part of the costs. When you are thinking about your costs, when you're thinking about your tower, your dream, your business, your house, your mansion, your car, whatever your tower is, what is associated with your costs? For a lot of those costs, it's the pain. It's the pain that we've been living in, the struggle. Have you ever struggled? Have you ever gotten that phone call? Ma'am, you're behind on your payments. Ma'am, we may have to repossess your car. Ma'am, your bank account is negative again. Have you ever felt that pain when you didn't have enough? When you've had to tell your child, I'm sorry, we don't have enough to buy that meal today. How many of you have experienced that excruciating pain of having to tell your child no to even food? Society has told us that if you've ever felt like that, if you've ever sat in that poverty, that scarcity of not having enough, that you'll never get out. Have you ever been told that? Have you ever felt that? The society, the media has always told us we're in a recession. There will never, ever, ever be enough. Have you ever felt that? I have when I've started over after divorce, losing my job to layoffs. I've sat in that season, turning off the air conditioner and sitting in the heat because I knew if I didn't, we would not have enough for the electric bill later on. Have you ever felt that? Sat in the sweat of it? Or told your child no? For me, that's what we have. Guess what? The enemy is wrong. The media is wrong. Society is wrong. God is telling us right here, if you want to build that tower, because which of you, I have chosen you, I have created you, which of you are wanting to build a tower? Wanting, longing, dreaming. That dream, that desire within you has put there for a purpose. Do not let society or the media or your beginnings tell you you can't. Because yes, you can. I know I've rebuilt because in this season right now, where all of a sudden my husband's in disabling pain, things have been lost, things have been drained. But I know because of my faith and the work that I've done and setting in the preparation, God's given me a plan. He's given me a plan. And if I'm obedient to that plan, to that work that He has given me, wow, I cannot wait for the generosity. Work is defined as this: the willingness to open the resources knowledgeably. Let me say that again. You ready for this? It is the willingness to open the resources knowledgeably. A lot of us aren't willing. We're praying and we're hoping the resources are just going to come to us. We've got to have that willingness. We've got the willingness to work hard, open the door, stop letting people step on us like a doormat, and start being the holder of the door, opening it up. And our maturity, our faith and obedience, opening those resources willingly and knowledgeably by sitting in and doing the work and making the plans, just like in Luke 14:28. So again, which of you, say I in the chat, I am wanting to build that tower. How many of you, again, are ready to build that tower, that business, that nonprofit, and be able to leave a legacy, an inheritance, a way of living for your children and generations to come? Next, doesn't first sit down. Ooh, this is a part of the rest that I know for me. I used to live in the pride of the busyness. Too busy. I'm too busy. I ran in circles. I would work 80-hour weeks at the accounting firm. And then after I got laid off and I started a side business, I was working full out during the day, late at night, getting up early, but I took it as a badge of honor. I was like, look what I'm doing. I created such a whirlwind that I couldn't think straight. How many of you, when you were looking at a piece of water, have you ever seen like a raging river and you can't see the bottom because the water is all swirled up? You can't see a thing. But when the water rests, you can clearly see the bottom and what's inside. And when you're swirling around like a mad woman, you can't see where you're even going. You can't see clearly what you're building. You can't see clearly what your costs are. You can't see clearly what you're planning. Let's stop. Let's rest. And right there, sit down, ma'am. Take a seat. Comment in the chat. Sit down. Sit down. Rest. On the seventh day, God rested. He's able to sit back and look at his work. It is done. I did good. How many of you are treasuring your Sabbath and sitting back and said, I did good? Comment below. I did good. Treasuring your Sabbath, sitting down, resting, so you can even hear what God is planning. My favorite thing to do for rest is to breathe, to be able to sit down in a still place. Slowly breathe in, slowly breathe out. Breathing in through my nose and out through my mouth. Because technically, if you study pulmonology and the way our bodies were designed, we were not meant to breathe so fast. We were meant to breathe 5 counts in, 5 counts out, which creates 5.5 breaths per minute. Wow, is God amazing. But if you do studies now and you listen and you read, or on average, it's 26 breaths per minute that we're breathing right now. We're no longer anxious, nor we're full of anxiety, nor we can't think straight because we're constantly anxious because we're breathing so fast. So calm. Take a breath, whether it's sitting at a stoplight, breathe in and breathe out. My favorite practice is to try to get up to 4 counts in and 4 counts out. Getting to 5.5 is hard work, but you can do it. But I want you to take a seat. So first, for which of you, write down your you. And his next part, wanting to build a tower. What is your tower? What is that goal? What does God place on your heart? Next, doesn't first sit down. What is that one time a week that you are sitting down? You are resting. It's your Sabbath. It's your day with God. But I also want you to write down what is your one time of week you are sitting down with your buddy, with your finances, having your own board meeting with yourself, with your family, teaching your kids how to have those amazing conversations around finances. In my podcast called Money Over Easy, it's conversations over money made easy. It's based off the conversations my dad, my financial planner father, used to have with me and still has with me every Saturday morning at breakfast. Since I was 3, he would draw out a triangle and start teaching me about money concepts through drawing. You can do the same with your children, with your spouse. There is a way to have conversations every single week, but you first must sit down. Sit. What is that one time a week you're going to sit down and look over your finances? The next part, calculate the costs to see if he has enough. Okay. This part really I have to focus on. I have to remind myself every single week to calculate the costs. Are you being realistic? That's why I ask myself, am I being realistic? For you, what's that one question? Are you being realistic with that business, with that nonprofit? When the master gave the servants the talents, the 3 servants, he gave all of them the same amount. Here's your amounts. Go take care of it. Be a good and faithful servant. How are you stewarding the money that you were given and where you're investing it at? Calculating the cost. How much is it truly going to cost you? It goes back. How much is it going to cost you financially, emotionally, physically? Looking at all the costs, because nothing's worse than that struggle of not being able to complete it. What is one thing in your life that you wish you could have completed? You wish you would have been able to finish that caused you so much pain, so much anguish? Do you see that one thing? How did it make you feel? Do you see the place where you're at, where you're on your knees in tears? The pain from not counting the cost, calculating those costs are so great. But let's change that. Let's change that narrative together. Let's start singing the preparation because God has that creative gift within you. He is ready for you to prepare, to plan. So let's go. The next part is enough. Do you have enough? How much is enough? When you think of the word enough, what do you think of? Sometimes it's just enough to pay the bills. Sometimes it's just enough to have your dream car. Sometimes it's just enough to, my stepmom and I were recently talking about vacations. When we used to be able to go on vacations to Hawaii and all these places, I mean, it seems like such a dream right now. But when we were there, it wasn't enough. It was, wow, they got to fly here first class. They got to fly here on a perfect jet. They got to stay in that hotel. What we had was gorgeous. It was beautiful. It was such a blessing. But at the time, it wasn't enough. We were not satisfied. Have you ever felt not satisfied? Have you been given a gift? Or better yet, have you ever given a gift to somebody and the look on their face was they weren't happy. They weren't satisfied. It's like a kid at Christmas. They opened up the gift that you had worked so hard to get them, and the look of disappointment on their face because it wasn't enough. It wasn't what he got, she got, the other kids at school were given. So when you're calculating the costs, I want you to truly define how much is enough. Next piece, and the last, is to complete it. To complete, to finish. When you're seeing that strip mall, when you're seeing that house, when you're watching those abandoned videos online, they didn't finish, whether it's finished the construction or their plan to be able to live in this dream home forever. It was never enough. Something was never satisfied. That dream job, that dream business, that dream, it ended up eating away at them, whether it was emotionally, financially. Be able to complete it. How can you complete the job, the work, the willingness to open the resources faithfully, knowledgeably, divinely that God has given you? So that someday when you get to heaven, God is saying, "Oh, you good and faithful servant." Comment below. Do you not feel that? Good and faithful servant. I know I do. Because whether the media, society, that one family member who's always told you, you can't do it, you can't complete it, you can now sit confidently and say, yes, I can. Yes, I can. For God knows the plans he has for me. Plans to prosper me and not to harm me. Plans to give me hope and a future. God has a plan for you, but we must be prepared in our planning. So when he's able to hand over those tokens, hand over those talents, hand over that business, hand over that thing in life that you've been praying for, or that he has even bigger planned for you, you're ready in your preparation because he has chosen you. He has chosen you to build something so amazing for his kingdom. But he wants you to sit down, count the costs so you can complete it.
Thank you for tuning into this episode of Created to Give. We uncover who we were created to be with money. If you enjoy this episode, please subscribe, follow along, and give us a 5-star review because I would love to hear back from you. Remember, you were created to multiply, you were created to manage your money, and you were created to give.